faithfully delivering value by interpreting great books worldwide. Hi, this is Sally from Book Talks. Today, we're diving into Make Your Time Double. Oh, you might be thinking, another time management book? Actually, time management is super familiar to most folks these days. Just hop online and bam, tons of methods and courses pop up. Lots of people can rattle off time management tips or planning tricks, but here's the rub. After all that advice, why do we still mess up our time? What's going on? Well, this book we're covering today actually cracks that nut. According to the author, it's cause we just don't get the philosophy of time. So we keep being its slaves. The author, Fabien Olicard, is a renowned French psychologist. Back in his youth, he was a total procrastinator. In school, he'd cram homework right before class. Even summer assignments got pushed to the last minute. There's this term, hopeless procrastinator, and Fabien was basically that, beyond saving. Finally, at 17, on the brink of adulthood, Fabien had a wake-up call. No more drifting aimlessly. Gotta take charge of my life. If I don't get a grip on time, I'll be its slave for life. Fighting back, Fabien found time management isn't nearly as tough as folks made it out to be. He started with his own pain points, found his time's worth, spotted the usual traps, and tackled them head-on. His life took off like a rocket. He wrote books, became a magician, posted daily on YouTube, snagged 1.7 million fans, and launched a company, Total Time Management Pro. So these methods, they're pulled straight from psychology and his own life. Simple, doable, totally natural, and a breeze to stick with. To the author, time management isn't some grueling grind. It's about living with your quirks and laziness, super practical. All right, next we'll share the book's content through 3 key points. First, how to correctly understand time and fully realize its preciousness. Second, how to avoid falling into time traps and better control your life. Third, how to reasonably uncover time to double your available hours. Well, let's start with the first key point, how to correctly understand time and fully realize its preciousness. So, in this section, the author suggests that many people waste their time recklessly because they simply don't know how precious their time is. He proposes that to better understand their time, people must know how to calculate their time's value. What exactly is your time's value? Simply put, it's how much an hour is worth. For example, say your hour is worth $1,000. When you don't know this, you'd be scrolling through celebrity gossip on Weibo, chilling freely. Even if an hour slips by unnoticed, you don't feel the sting, no sharp pain of wasting time. But what if you knew your hour is worth $1,000? That means for every hour of gossip, you're losing $1,000. Would you still watch gossip then? I bet you wouldn't. Once we fully realize our time's value, we can consciously avoid time-wasting behaviors. So, how much is our time actually worth? Let's calculate it using the most direct measure, money. Next, you'll hear 4 very simple questions. Follow my guidance, write down each answer, and you'll know your hourly time value. First question. Imagine I give you a gift card to spend anywhere, but you have to do it within an hour. You can't do anything else, only play on your phone. How much money do you think must be on this card for you to agree? That's the first question. Now, you can write down your answer. I'll pause for 10 seconds. Okay, second question. It's another imagination exercise. There's a very simple task, but it's boring, requiring you to repeat it constantly for an hour. How much money would make you willing to take this task? That's the second question. Think about it and write down your answer. Third, divide your monthly salary by your monthly working hours to get your current hourly wage. Fourth, imagine you're the company's HR. Estimate your own worth. What monthly salary would you offer yourself? Then divide that by monthly working hours. That's your target hourly rate. Now, take the numbers from these 4 scenarios, add them up, and divide by 4. Voila, that's your time value, your hourly worth. Of course, this isn't scientifically precise math, but it combines 4 key elements: emotional value, dream value, current pay, and future expectations. And these 4 aspects truly represent time's value. If hourly math feels weird, multiply this number by your daily or monthly hours to see your daily or monthly value. Might be clearer. Anyway, crunching numbers isn't the end goal. Our real purpose? To fully grasp time's preciousness. This awareness of time will subtly reshape how we approach life and choices, learning to treasure time and calculate its cost. Once you measure time costs, daily tasks won't overwhelm you. Instead, you'll filter them through your time's value. Take Socrates' 3 rules for listening to stories, for example. Is this story true? Is the storyteller acting in good faith? Does this story help Socrates himself? Socrates explained these rules because, as a philosopher, his time was precious. His priority? Making Athens better. So, only stories aligning with Athens' reality, told with goodwill to improve it, or sparking Socrates' thinking, those held value. Thus, these 3 rules filtered out time wasters. If Socrates feels too abstract, well, remember the author's own example we covered earlier. The author is a busy person juggling multiple roles, so he established 4 filtering principles for his work time. Whenever someone approaches the author to discuss work-related matters, he considers first how much financial return it can bring him. Wherever, it's not as bad as, second, how much time will this task require? Third, what is the likelihood of this thing being realized? Fourth, in the long run, is this beneficial for my career development? These filtering principles actually help the author make wiser decisions. And making good decisions is one of the best ways to fully utilize time. The author suggests that everyone can establish such simple and effective filtering rules based on their own work and life realities to eliminate useless things that consume a lot of time from our lives. Okay, that's it for the first key point. In this section, by re-understanding the value of time, the author not only makes us realize the preciousness of time again, but also provides a method to restructure our lives. Establishing our own filtering rules to make wiser decisions about where time goes, thus improving time management. Of course, enhancing the perception of time is just the first step, a warm-up given by the book's author to readers. So, after knowing the value of each hour of our time, what time traps and time tricks in life cause our time value to be wasted? Next, we move into the second part, how to avoid falling into time traps and better control our lives. The author introduces 3 time traps and methods to deal with them in the book. The first time trap is called time expansion. This is a theory proposed by 20th century writer Parkinson, which states that as long as there is time, work will expand to fill all available time. The author gives his own example. He is a YouTube video blogger who needs to upload videos regularly. He found that when making videos, he often falls into this pit of time expansion. For example, to make a video on a specified topic, if he gives himself only one day and commands that he must finish it today, he actually can do it. But if it's the same video, the same plan, and he relaxes the time, telling himself he just needs to finish it by next Monday, he will definitely procrastinate until the very day of Monday to get it done. To be clear, the author wasn't completely idle during that previous week either. In fact, he kept working and did lots of miscellaneous things, but, still dragged it out until the absolute deadline to actually finish. Moreover, he noticed that whether made in one day or stretched over a week, the final quality difference between the 2 videos was minimal. In other words, work seems to expand and contract like thermal expansion, adjusting to whatever time he allocated. Honestly, many of us experience this at work and life. Oh, we blame our procrastination, beat ourselves up about inefficiency, and chalk it up to laziness. But really, we're in a time trap caused by poor scheduling that expands time consumption. So the author suggests not giving yourself too much time when planning, because often duration doesn't affect outcomes. More time just fuels procrastination. Better to compress deadlines. If you're nearing the end and genuinely running short, then add a little more. Simple as that. This saves procrastination time and boosts efficiency. The second time trap is doctor syndrome. This trap happens when we slightly overrun on the first task at work. Then the second task overruns a bit, the third too, and it snowballs until half the day's tasks get skipped. The author calls this time trap doctor syndrome. Think about it. Doesn't this mirror doctor visits? Say your appointment's at 3 p.m., but each patient runs a little late, and suddenly it's 5 p.m. when it's your turn. This approach doesn't improve the doctor's efficiency and just wastes patients' time. So, how do we fix doctor syndrome? The solution's simple, but requires discipline. Stick rigidly to your work schedule. When time's up, stop immediately, like an exam proctor demanding your paper. Even incomplete, report and accept consequences. That's learning from mistakes. Some might worry, what if I actually mess up the report? The boss gets furious and I lose my job. To this, the author says, why not actually try this method first? If you truly embrace this mindset, you'll find your efficiency becomes incredibly high when facing fear, always finishing tasks before deadlines. Of course, if this feels too harsh, you can try a gentler version. For example, schedule 1 hour to write a work report. When the hour's up, even if unfinished, start the next task on schedule, then assign another time slot for the report. This hard rule creates structure. With fixed time slots, people gain motivation and focus, forcing efficient completion without leaving room for procrastination. Otherwise, even if you finish the report, you might waste 3 extra hours, leaving other work undone, potentially causing worse consequences. The third time trap is brain silence. What is brain silence? For example, in meetings where the boss explains tasks up front, you're holding pen and paper, constantly writing, seemingly working, but actually your mind's completely blank, not hearing a word the boss says. What you're holding acts like an auto pen, transcribing the boss's words, writing without engaging your brain at all. Yet you don't stop. Subconsciously, you equate hand movement with mental work. As if you're not wasting time, why does this happen? When we listen, we mainly use our brain's auditory cortex, but other neural areas, like visual and motor cortexes, remain inactive. While listening, these zones sit idle, becoming extremely bored, thus entering what neuroscience calls the default mode network state. Simply put, imagine your brain as a computer. These neural areas are like it idling. Though powered on, there's no real work, so they get bored, act up, and flood you with random thoughts, shattering focus. So we need to avoid brain silence. Keep idle brain areas active to prevent distraction and maintain focus. For example, when working with statistical charts or typing documents, play background music. Listening to music doesn't disrupt thoughts. It engages brain areas, prevents default mode, stops auditory distractions, keeping us focused and efficient. All right, that wraps up part 2. We covered 3 time traps: time expansion, doctor syndrome, and brain silence. These traps are like invisible hands, stealing our time, yet we often overlook them. We blame time waste on laziness or procrastination, leaving the problem unsolved. So the author offers specific countermeasures to avoid falling into these traps repeatedly, helping people take better control. Next, the 4th key point: how to reasonably mine time to double it. Time is like money. To get more, we must both save and create. Part 2 covered saving time and avoiding waste. Now in part 3, we'll discuss mining more time. The author provides 3 methods here too. First method: don't let your brain idle. Actually, our lives are filled with fragmented time. But during these fragments, we either scroll phones or space out, wasting this time. The author believes this time could be far more valuable. For instance, on buses, showering, waiting, or queuing, though bodies are tied up, our brains can tackle tasks. Say you're queuing at a popular Peking duck restaurant with a super long line. And you're traveling this weekend? While queuing, mentally plan your trip. Packing at home, what to put in your suitcase. After packing, which train station should you board from? Should you grab some McDonald's at the station to eat on the train? How will you get to the hotel after getting off the train? Well, one thing, how should you take photos with your companions when you arrive at the attractions? No, run through this series of scenarios in your mind. Jot them down in your notes, and you'll find your travel plans already well formed. Uh, Fully utilizing your brain during fragmented time is an invaluable skill, not just for life planning, but also professional growth. For example, renowned author Ma Boyan often uses this method. Riding the subway, he observes people's behaviors to deduce who's about to get off. He imagines their backgrounds too. What stories connect their work and relationships? This exercises his thinking, constantly supplying material for his novel characters. Time is fragmented, but mental processes can flow continuously. In our fragmented modern society, we can use such moments for mental exercises, making even these snippets valuable. Second method, trust others and build your team. Mention team, and most people immediately think of the workplace. But the author's concept includes both professional and personal aspects. First, the workplace part. Many overload themselves at work, like an internet team leader who designs products, architects systems, even manages user communities solo, leaving zero time for sleep. For such leaders, the key is learning to confidently delegate tasks. If you can't trust others, reflect. Are you failing to develop your team? Is your management too rigid? Have you learned effective empowerment? In short, identify the specific issue. Don't just let it slide. This grabbing every task work mode, and if you're not a leader but an executor, learn workplace communication, upward management, peer coordination. Ultimately, busyness isn't the essence of work. Efficient communication and problem solving are. In life, it's the same principle. Many people chase after being all-rounders, thinking they need amazing cooking skills, be a handy carpenter, handle every household chore themselves, and even get a travel certificate just to go on a trip. To this, the author says, sure, you can do it, but it's not necessary. Especially for many working folks, jobs are already exhausting, and time with family is scarce to begin with. Tasks like housework, fixing appliances, planning long trips, these things others are better at and can solve quickly. Delegate them to specialists and build your own team for home services, travel, finance, taxes, and legal advice. Of course, team here doesn't mean hiring them, but establishing long-term contacts and maintaining stable service relationships. This way, when issues pop up, we can always find the most professional help fast and solve problems better. Remember how we taught you to calculate your time value in part 1? Your time is precious. This method can also cut down our time costs, making life more valuable. The third method, overcome the law of least effort. Psychologist Henri Laborit believed that deep in all our minds, there's a little voice. This voice calls us to do things that need the least effort to finish. That's the law of least effort. For example, say today's tasks are 2. First, open the WeChat group and answer user questions. Second, write this month's promotion report. Which one would you do first? I bet most folks would pick the first, chatting with online buddies, 'cause it's easier than writing a report. That's the law of least effort in action. People love doing things that take the least effort. This is a common laziness we often overlook, yet it causes inefficiency in time management for many. Many might have heard this story. Filling a jar by putting big rocks first, then pebbles, sand, and finally water. That way, the jar gets filled to the brim. Using this analogy for time management, the jar is our daily time. The big rocks are the most important things, pebbles come next, and sand and water are the least important trivial tasks that we keep spending time on, driven by the laziness of the law of least effort. So obviously, if we fill the jar with sand and water first, then those truly important things can never be accomplished. So the author suggests we must overcome the law of least effort. How exactly do we do that? First, prioritize tasks by importance, not difficulty. Then allocate sufficient time for the most critical ones. Even if a task takes lots of time and is super challenging, always reserve enough time for these big rocks to ensure they get done. Next, allocate ample time for the pebbles. Finally, the sand's time. If during execution you find the big rock task truly can't be prioritized, you can do other tasks first but still reserve time for the remaining work. Key point, don't fill the jar with other stuff. Keep some focus on this task, okay? We finished part 3 too. We covered 3 little methods to mind time: fully utilizing your brain in fragments, building your team, and overcoming the laziness of the law of least effort. Alice 2:0. Using these methods, you'll find time seems to fall from the sky, like a reward for managing time well, letting you use extra hours for joyful things. Beyond these 3 sections, the book also sprinkles in other time management concepts. So, for example, constantly learning new things. When discussing how to maximize morning time, the author mentions gaining a lot from the book, The Miracle Morning. It taught him how to achieve quality sleep and wonderful mornings. Mornings made this notorious lazy person stop oversleeping, ushering in beautiful morning routines ever since. Actually, time management is never a standalone skill. It's closely tied to our relationships, sleep habits, and more. While learning and improving in other areas, you can integrate those skills with time management. You'll find free time isn't that hard to control. All right, that wraps up our interpretation of Make Your Time Double. Reading notes are below the audio. Catch you next time.